I'm your host, Rob Carbone. This is BD4.
Barrett, some shake and bake, 10 for 3. Tantalizing the crowd was Barrett. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye. Anthony for 3. That one goes down. Gotta put 4 fingers up when Torres comes to the plate. The wall.
What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Episode 207 of the podcast tonight. I am your host, RJ Carbone. Episode 207 of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Hope everybody's having a good night, or hope you're having a good day. As I am recording, it is late Tuesday night. As you are listening, it is Wednesday. It's technically Wednesday morning as I speak, as it's past midnight. You know, as we just finished up the second game of the final game of the Knicks West Coast trip. But as you're listening to this, it should be Wednesday, January 27th. So I hope we're having a good middle of the week here. Almost there. So, this past weekend, it was a pretty eventful weekend for sports. Right, we had on Saturday we had the Conor McGregor fight. You know, I had a lot of first of all, the fight drew a lot of hype, rightfully so. It was a good fight for as long as it lasted. But a lot of people were picking McGregor to win this thing. You know, coming off a solid victory against Cowboy the last time he fought, which was he had a long layoff. You know, and that was kind of, you know, it probably played a factor in why he did not look in his greatest shape, despite him saying he was in great shape heading into the fight this past Saturday. You know, he gets knocked out in the second round by Poirier, and he takes it humbly. You know, he pretty much said it. He said he took his defeat with the right mindset, and you know, Poirier came into this fight as the underdog, but he came out of the fight now even more popular than he was before. That was an impressive victory to attack Conor the way he did with those calf kicks. Pretty much that's what it was. It was those calf kicks. You know, Conor had it going early with those shoulder strikes, you know, up against Poirier in the fence. But, and I'm no fucking MMA expert, so don't you know, take this wrong. But you know, it looked, from what I was seeing, it looked like Conor had him early with the shoulder strikes, and then Poirier just, I guess, progressively just kept beating him down, wearing him down with those calf strikes, and that kind of, you know, got Conor up against the fence in the corner, and then that's where Poirier just attacked him with a bunch of, you know, punches, just nailing them in the face, and just like that, it was called off. And it was an excellent upset, you know, but now it's putting Poirier on the map, and he's made it known he wants to fight anybody who wants him. And maybe it also answered some questions for McGregor, right? Everybody was saying, oh, is he going to get that Khabib rematch? Is he ready for it now, right? I don't know. After seeing that, I don't know, man. It's tough. I'm not a McGregor hater. I know if you don't love McGregor, you hate him. I really like that. And honestly, I respect every one of those guys in MMA, man. I mean, just it's got to be the most difficult sport out there. I think it's pretty far and away the most difficult sport out there. I don't even consider it a sport. You know, it's not a game. This is real, right? You can play football, you can play basketball, play baseball, play tennis, whatever, play hockey, soccer. You don't play fighting. You don't play. This is real, right? The concept of MMA is to beat the living shit out of your opponent, right? The concept in football is, sure, you hit each other, but the concept is you need to push that ball all the way down to, 100 yards. You need to get it to the end zone. Find a way to get the ball to the end zone. Basketball, you have to, shoot that sphere into the cylinder. Baseball, you have to hit the ball over the fence. Fighting, you don't win until you either knock him out, submit him or her, or, win by decision, which means you last every single round. And that is brutal. Each and one of those results are brutal. So that's why I just have the ultimate respect for these guys. They are going out there and doing some dangerous shit. They have to sustain this. They have to withstand this damage to their body. And then they go back out there. And then they keep doing it. Every round, every fight. It's incredible. So I don't hate. I don't take time to hate on these guys. And not to take away any other athletes out there. But there are a lot of other prima donna athletes that I just can't get behind. And when I watch MMA, I don't see any prima donnas out there. I see guys going out there and just doing something I could never do. It is barbaric, but it is respectable. That sport teaches a lot of respect too. But so that's why I don't hate anybody, man. I can't hate anyone. I'm a McGregor guy. I'm also a Khabib guy. I know they hate each other. I just like every one of these guys. I like Covington. He's cocky. He did the whole Trump thing for a while. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes now. Usman. I like all these guys, man. Masvidal. I have so much respect. I had money on this McGregor thing. I was hoping he would take it, but I lost a lot. I lost some on Hooker. Chandler beat Hooker. That was the co-main event. I had some money on the prelims. I won a couple of the early prelims, but lost them once we saw Hooker and McGregor get upset. But yeah, that's pretty much my take on this weekend. I don't want to waste too much time because we're already off track. We're not even supposed to be talking MMA. This is on the Knicks. But before we do get to the Knicks, guys, first of all, thank you for stopping by. Episode 207 of the podcast. This is BD4, sponsored by Anchor. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to begin your podcast. It's the best way to make a podcast. Guys, you're listening to episode 207 of BD4. You can find us on my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. Go there, find the podcast and the many platforms where you can listen or watch the podcast. And while you're on my website, you may as well follow me on social media. You can see me on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And you can also subscribe to the blog that I write. It's right on my website as well. So, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. The Yankees have been making moves, and I'm thinking about putting an episode out for the Yankees soon. Maybe sometime in the next week I'll have something about the Yankees. Maybe this weekend I'll publish an episode and, talk about the Yankees. Because they made some moves since the last time we spoke. And, the last Yankees episode we had was Greg and I discussing, Greg's from Yankee Crazy Podcast. We discussed the DJ LeMahieu signing. That was really the last big thing that happened at the time. But since then, some things have gone on, The Yanks just recently traded Ottavino to Boston. I thought that was hilarious. Was not an Ottavino fan. We find out Tanaka is officially leaving us, going back to Japan. Very thankful for his service here. He was excellent. I think he lived up to every penny. Last year it did kind of leave a bad taste in my mouth, but you know what? This guy, for the most part, was a postseason master for the Yankees before those two debacle of starts he had. But, the regular season, I don't give a shit. He was a postseason master. So that happened. Ottavino happened. A couple of other things happened. We signed Jameson Taillon from Pittsburgh. That's going to be, nice. The rotation seems to be... So my thing with the rotation has never been about the ceiling. It's always been about the floor. Right? The ceiling has gotten better with the Jameson Taillon signing or trade and the Corey Kluber signing. The ceiling has gotten better. but it's still the floor that kind of scares me, right? The ceiling has never been my issue. What these guys are capable of has never been my issue. I never questioned that they have potential to be very good. My issue with that rotation has always been they might not peak out. They might. What happens if they don't peak out? They're very mediocre for a World Series contender, supposedly. And that's still a little unanswered for me, right? I would rather have some guys with some more promise, some stability. Jameson Taillon's got the potential, but he doesn't have a resume of deep success. Yes, Corey Kluber does, but he's 35. I would rather, I wish, I'm not going to pick and choose and be nitpicky here, that we have more guys like Cole, guys in their prime who are in the middle of success while they've had history of it as well, right? And that would have been nice to get Trevor Bauer, but obviously the whole luxury tax thing, we're trying to be frugal here. I just wish we had some more guys that we knew were going to give us something good, right? Don't know we're going to get that with Severino. We could, again, Severino's another guy, could be really good, but you don't know. Corey Kluber, does he have that one more great year left in him? Jordan Montgomery, there's no guarantee he does his thing. There's a lot of questions still. And again, we're going to have an episode on the Yankees. So, yeah, I don't want to waste too much time with bullshit because we still have the Knicks to talk about. But I do want to get to one thing on a more serious note. Obviously, everybody knows today, as I'm recording, it is January 26th, 2021. Last year, man, incredible how it's already been 12 fucking months. Kobe Bryant. Crazy, because after that happened, each month that passed by, I was like, wow, it's already been 2 months. Wow, it's already been 3 months. It's already been 6 months, a half a year. Guys, it's already been 10 months. And here we are. It's already 1 year since the tragedy of the 9 individuals in that helicopter. I remember it, man, just like it was yesterday. I'm sure I'm never going to forget any moment of that night. I was watching, I think I was just finishing up watching, it was either the Knicks game or some NBA game. I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw a bunch of RIP Kobe tweets, Kobe Bryant. I do probably what everybody else did. Pull up another tab and go on Google, search Kobe's name, and there it is. All over the feed. Helicopter crash in Calabasas, California. I still don't believe it, because I'm just in disbelief and total utter shock. I turn on the TV, ESPN, it's flashing red on the ticker. 2 anchors are talking about it, and they stopped the Pro Bowl to talk about it. And, it's just so sad. So, 1 year since today, and it's incredible that we're even, I don't know, I don't have anything, to input that'll make, his family feel better, but I just feel for them so much, man, and I know it doesn't get easier. It never does get easier. You're never going to forget about that. It's always going to hurt the same. But I just hope that they can find some kind of peace going forward. I hope, because this is his daughter, man. His wife and his other daughters. Man, did he have one other daughter? Maybe 2 other daughters. I don't know. I don't remember. But I just pray for his family that they continue to heal from this and try to move on as best as they can. But Kobe Bryant, man, I rest in peace to him. Never gonna forget that, man. And he was one of my favorite players of all time. I always joked about how my 3 favorite players of all time were 3 gigantic ball hogs. I was a big Carmelo Anthony guy, big Allen Iverson guy and a big Kobe Bryant guy. But those are three guys who could just put the ball in the net, no question. And Kobe Bryant, just a ridiculous basketball player, one of the greater players of all time, better than James. What? So, even better person. I'm sure he was a wonderful husband, wonderful father. And so just rest in peace. God bless his family. I'm praying for his family still to this day. And crazy how it's already been that long. Crazy. It's already been that long. It's so, man, it's so disappointing. But that's why I always try to live life to the fullest every day, man. It's always why I try to take it. I don't care how cliche it sounds, but try to never take life for granted and be fortunate that you wake up each and every day. And you should just be fortunate you're living, you're breathing. There's air out. You're living a life. I'm so fortunate for that, and because anything could happen at any time to anybody. We take everything for granted so often. We just assume we're going to be here tomorrow. And just like that, something could happen. So I guess that's what I'm taking from this. And what everybody should really try and take from it is that you never know. You got to live life to the fullest. Act like you're not going to be here. There's that whole YOLO saying. That's the way you got to live. All right, sorry I wasted about 15-20 minutes of your time to open up, but I did feel like that was important to say. Let's get to break, and when we get back to break, we'll get right into some things here. All right, be right back.
Hey fellows, so really briefly, before we get back into things here, I just want to remind you that if you haven't yet subscribed to this podcast, to BD4, then you can go do that right now on my website. You can go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Once again, in order to subscribe to this podcast, BD4, and if you want, follow me on social media and subscribe to the blog that I write, just go to my website. Go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Guys, thank you so much, and let's get right back into it.
There were actually rumors a few hours before the game started tonight in Utah that the Knicks were eyeing, can't believe I'm even saying this, Derrick Rose again. I don't love that. I have to look more into it, see the contract, see how he's playing, see how old he is, yada yada. But I'm not for adding another veteran point guard. If we're going to go after a point guard, I think it should be Lonzo Ball, who has also been in rumors for a bit now, but it's kind of, coming back up lately. So those things have been happening lately in the headlines. Maybe we do something there. We have some chips. We have some picks, a lot of picks. So keep an eye on that. Lonzo Ball, Derrick Rose. So I saw that. We get a point guard who can play make like Lonzo Ball. I think that's excellent, right? Guys, he'll be good for Kevin Knox, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson. Lonzo's an excellent guy in pick and roll, throwing up lobs. Alec Burks, who has also been talked about as a trade chip potentially, right? Flip him for some picks for the future. Alec Burks. By the way, I feel like every Knicks fan I talk to says his name differently. Maybe it's because we've had Trey Burke on the team before and that confuses everybody, but let's get this straight. It's Alec Burks. It's not Alex Burke. It's not Alex Burks. It's not Alec Burke. It's Alec Burks. I've heard so many variations of this poor guy's name. Oh my God. Alec Burks. But I shouldn't be talking because it took me forever to figure out how to pronounce Tom Thibodeau's name. Is it Thibodeau? Is it Thibs. No, it's Thibodeau and Tibbs. I'm pretty sure. I'm still not 100% sure. But that's what I've been rolling with. All right. Enough bullshit. Sorry. Let's get to game 1. Game 18 of the season. So the Knicks go and play the Portland Trailblazers to continue their West Coast trip, and they lose 116 to 113. Game pretty poorly officiated game. There was a lot of questionable calls. There was that weird review at the end. But the Knicks have themselves to blame. They started pitiful. They were pathetic in the first half. They ended it pretty resiliently. Give them credit there. It was the IQ game. Again. Alec Burks got the start. And his Cantor played some defense for a change. A lot of weird things happened in that one. So the first quarter, out of the gate, the Knicks are slow. Damian Lillard going off, scores 15 points. Derrick Jones Jr. scores 10 points. So those two combined to score 25 points. Portland goes off for 37 in the period. Lillard assists on 4 of those. I mean, they're just going off on the Knicks. And by the end of the first, it's 37 to 24 Portland. Second quarter is more of the same. The Blazers just hitting everything. They're 60%, almost 60% at halftime, up by 20 points. Third quarter comes. Out of the gate, Dame hitting jumpers left and right. 3 really tough jump shots off the dribble. That's like less than 2 minutes into the period, 3 of them. He starts the game out 8 for 8, puts the Blazers up 25 points. And right then and there, I'm thinking it's starting to smell like a Theo Pinson game, right? An Iggy Brasdegas outing. Probably in the makings here soon. But no, that's when IQ checks in for the fourth quarter. And he goes off. Him, along with the Knicks defense, pretty much taking the ball out of Dame Dollar's hand. And, IQ goes off, gets some help from Julius, and the Knicks make a fake comeback. I wouldn't call it a fake comeback because they really they played well the entire second half. They outscored Portland. They just had a really bad first half. But in that second half, Portland, IQ gets it going in the fourth. Comes in, he scores 8 points in a row about midway through the fourth quarter. Randall starts to chime in too later on. He gets a steal and lays it in with about 2:40 to go. That brings the Knicks within 8 points. At 2 minutes left, Randall scores again, brings the Knicks up 7, or within 7 points. Then IQ, Manuel quickly does his Lou Williams shit a couple of times. Gets Simmons to foul him on a 3-point attempt. Of course, he hits all 3 free throws. This is with like a minute and 33 left. Brings the Knicks within 3 points. Randall then continues to play strong. He, strong take to the rim. Finishes with about 30 seconds left on the clock. Brings the Knicks within 4 points at the time. IQ goes back out there and does another, 3-point play. Gets fouled on a 3. Hits all 3 free throws again. Brings the Knicks within a couple of points. Even hits Mitch on a lob and a couple of following the possession later. The following possession. But by then it's like a little too late. I'm trying to remember my best, but listen, the kid scored 21 of his 31 points in the fourth quarter, but the Knicks just couldn't get it done because of how bad they were in the first half. But it was a pretty poorly coached. These last 2 games are pretty poorly coached, in my opinion, by Tom Thibodeau. I understand. I'm a fan. I know it's not. I'm not supposed to say this. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I get that professionals are 110% correct on 110% of the things they do, right? And fans are never correct just because they're fans, right? Professionals are never wrong and fans are always right. Isn't that how it goes? Is that the narrative now? So I get it, right? We're not allowed to use our brain. We're not allowed to use our mouth and have an opinion. But you know what? That's what this podcast is for. It's for me to express my own opinion. I really did. I thought this game was pretty poorly coached. You have IQ going off for 31 points in 24 minutes. 4 assists. He goes 9 for 18, 5 for 8 from deep, 8 of 8 at the free throw stripe. Versus Elfrid Payton's 8 points in 24 minutes. So IQ, once again, 31 points on 18 shots in 24 minutes. Elfrid Payton, 8 points on 8 shots in 24 minutes. Not productive, getting ripped defensively, yet he still earned the same amount of minutes. He still played all of the first quarter and all of the third quarter. I am so sick of Elfrid Payton. When Frank Ntilikina comes back, he needs to be the backup point guard for IQ. And because if Tibbs is going to use, if Tom Thibodeau is going to use this defensive narrative, the recycled, tiring bullshit notion that Payton plays defense, which is so false. But if he's going to ride with that, he's going to be contradicting himself if he keeps playing him over Frank Ntilikina when Frank gets back. Because at least Frank, as much as he doesn't do much on offense either, at least he is young. And there's some promise there that he'll eventually reach some kind of ceiling. Whereas Elfrid Payton is already this mediocre veteran who's peaked out, right? As a 40% field goal guy, less than 30% three-point shooter. He's been the same player since day one. Frank is at least, barely over 20-something years old. He's at least an actual defensive player. He's an elite wing defender who can guard up to the smaller fours if he wanted to. EP is a mediocre defender who gets hyped up as a decent one. Okay, so while none of them are special offensively, if we're calling Payton a good defender, and that's what Thibs is pretty much doing, Frank is fucking Kawhi Leonard out there. So that excuse will not make sense once Ntilikina comes back. And I think he's healthy. They're just not playing him. I really don't think his future looks bright here. But unfortunately, man, that's where we are. I would rather play fucking Frank Ntilikina at the backup one. And I would have IQ start. And anybody telling you that IQ shouldn't be starting because of inconsistency is fucking... It's such nonsense. I would rather sit through a rookie, go through his ups and downs, and have a learning experience with inconsistencies than watch Elfrid Payton be consistently bad, consistently mediocre. And, it's not about... If you value consistency more than, a young, good player with upside, that's your issue. It shouldn't be about results with these young players right now. It just should be about promise and what they're showing you. And IQ is showing you that he has some promise. Listen, I don't even think this guy is going to be their starting point guard of the future. I don't. I'm like 80% of Knicks fans. I'm not calling for him to be their guy. I think eventually he's going to be this really good six-man, Lou Williams, again, type of player. But for now, while we don't have that point guard, right, let's throw him out there because Elfrid Payton is nothing but counterproductive. He's nothing but going in the wrong direction with this team. He doesn't pass to the guys he's supposed to be passing to. He ignores RJ Barrett. He can't shoot the ball. He's not a modern-day point guard. He's just not a good player. Not a good starter. He can maybe be a decent backup for somebody, but I'm just tired of him. I'm done with him. I don't even want to see him in the rotation anymore, but that was part of the reason I thought it was a poorly coached game. IQ should have gotten more than 24 minutes. If he scored 31 and a double dozen, imagine what he could have done in, a triple dozen in 36 minutes. I thought RJ Barrett, I had there was no reason for him to get excluded in the second half of that game. He didn't even play the fourth quarter. Third quarter, it looked like he was getting something going. He was 4 for 9. It wasn't even like he was doing bad. But he doesn't play. He's been so hot of lately, and he was doing pretty fine. And Rivers is playing in his spot. despite playing really bad lately. We're going to get to tonight. But he was playing in his spot. You can talk about matchups all you want. RJ Barrett should have closed that game, right? And we said it in one of the articles to open up the season. Or before the season, I said, like, I don't want to see Thibodeau go vets over youths late in the game, especially. Right? Because I talked about in this article how last year there were times where Reggie Bullock would get minutes over RJ late just because we want to pick up the victory. I would rather, again, a young kid go through this learning experience and try to close out a game. And it wasn't, again, it's not like he was struggling. He was doing fine. Rivers was continuing to struggle. So I didn't understand that. That's my second knock there on Tibbs that game. Tibbs. He also took out Alec Burks. You know, he hit a couple of shots, Burks. He ended up going for 18 on 5 of 8, but he took him out at one point, which it was a really odd time to take him out. He only got 27 minutes. Would have liked for him to get at least 31, 32, a couple more minutes in there. Thought that was odd. You know, I thought that was really odd. So some really questionable decisions there. But the Knicks, you know, I don't know. I thought Mitch, you know, should have gotten more looks. We're going to talk about Mitch, Knox, Obi in a bit. I want to get to game 2, recap that a little bit, and then we'll talk about more the individual aspects of things. So let's head to break one last time here. And when we get back, we'll talk about game 2, and we'll wrap this thing up in a bit. So, BRB. All right, so one moment here. Just get my pen. Fixing something on my notes here. But game 19 of the season, Knicks Jazz. Knicks take the loss to the Jazz, their third in a row, falling to 8-11, 3 games under 500 now. But the Knicks take the 94 or the 108-94 loss in Utah. Listen, the Knicks were really unlike Portland. This was kind of the opposite, where the Knicks got off to a blazing hot start, no pun intended. And the Jazz were really slow. You know, the Knicks were 8 for 15 from the floor, while the Jazz were 3 for 15 to start the game. I think they were 3 for 17 at one point. Breen said. Randall and Barrett were playing really good in that first period. Jazz found a rhythm eventually, some point in the second, but that wasn't long after. It didn't last long after Rivers caught fire. The guy goes off for 25 points on 10 for 10 shooting, 5 triples in the first half. I mean, strong takes to the rim, tough shots from downtown off the bounce. Just something with Rivers and the Utah Jazz. He goes off on them. You know, I made a joke on Twitter. Only play Rivers against the Jazz because that's pretty much the only 2 games where he performed above expectations. Rivers, RJ Randall, they propelled the Knicks off to a hot start, and the Knicks go into intermission up 13 points. You know, the defense was forcing excellent. The defense for the Knicks was forcing poor shots. You know, an excellent shooting Jazz team forced to go into the paint and kick it out, but they were just missing everything. The Knicks were contesting them. The Jazz were 23% from deep in the first half. Mitchell, Mike Conley, Bogdanovich were 1 of 19 combined in the first half. So the Knicks were really doing a good job making them press. The second half, though, was ugly. The Knicks came out of the gate with no energy, no spirit. Utah was just out hustling them. They were playing faster, swinging the ball around more, and those threes started falling. You know, Pick and rolls, 3-point shooting, just murdered the Knicks. 11-4 Jazz run at the top of the third. A few minutes later, go on a 7-0 run. They extend that to a 10-2 run. Before you knew it, the Knicks were up just 1 point entering the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter comes, they continue to do their thing. Pick and rolls, 3-point shots. Gobert down low, cleaning the glass. Eaton on the glass, 19 rebounds that night, or this game. And on the flip side, the Knicks offense just could not score. They didn't score a point until the 8-minute mark where RJ Barrett hit a triple. He had a good game, 3 for 3 from downtown, 17 points. But the Knicks mustered up just 13 points in the fourth quarter. Utah ended up doubling that pretty much, and then some with 28. After the game, Mitchell Robinson put up another. This guy's like a social media troll. Trolling the fans, trolling the organization. Puts up a head scratcher. I don't have the tweet in front of me. I forget because he deleted it actually, but I forget exactly what it said. It was like something. They need to play me, or they don't play me. They said they were going to play me, or something like that. I mean, he got 31 minutes, but I think he's referring to just not getting shot attempts. And again, we're going to talk about Mitch more in a second. But yeah, Game 19 of the season was not great. The Knicks, really bad second half. You hope that this, I don't know, it was weird. And it's another game where, again, I said in Game 18, I blamed Tibbs. Christ, here I am again with that. But I do it again here in Game 19. I didn't love the way he coached. Rivers, a perfect 100%. 10 for 10 for 25 points in the first half. One of the greater performances in Knicks history in a half. For what that's worth. Gets completely iced. 10 for 10, and then he's just left with, 3 or 4 shots maybe in the second half of this one? You can argue that the Jazz adjusted, sure, but where was Tom Thibodeau countering? I mean, we see this often. Tibbs doesn't have a counter for when teams adjust to hot shooting Knicks. And the Knicks just ice them out. And here's Rivers not getting anything. Airballing floaters. He went from draining tough shots to airballing layups and floaters in the second half. And, the offense just had no rhythm again. Listen, Tom Thibodeau's defense, great. He's got the Knicks playing hard. But you need offense to survive, and his offensive scheme is non-existent. I don't think it's very good. He doesn't really have an offense outside of, a couple of DHOs and pick and rolls and fades for Randall. We don't really have much. We have Elfrid Payton over dribbling, while you have RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin spotting up on the elbow for 3. By the way, Obi's minutes are kind of becoming a concern for me. 13 minutes tonight. Gets not only a short amount of minutes, but they're sporadic. A lot of garbage time minutes for him, a lot of short spurts of minutes. Are they easing him back because of the calf injury? Is he ready? Is he not? But it's kind of the reason why we have to eventually think about trading Randall for that first round pick. Listen, with the way Randall's playing, I don't want to trade him either. I love it. I wish we would, looking back in hindsight, it's easy to say now, but I wish we would have drafted, a wing or a guard, a Halliburton. Would have made this issue a lot less of an issue. But kind of like those issues we've had with the Yankees, too much talent is an issue in the end at that position. So, but they're going to have to figure something out there. At the 4 spot, it's just weird. We're going to have to figure out what we're doing there. Kevin Knox was pretty quiet tonight again. That's like 7 games in a row now where he's in single figures, shooting below like 30%, maybe at 30% from distance during that span. 8 minutes tonight, just 8 minutes. He's regressing, man, hard. He looks like a Westchester product right now. But I'll give him some time because he's, he was so hot for the Knicks for a while. So hopefully he finds it soon, but it's got to start coming. But yeah, I don't know, man. Tom Thibodeau just with the weird offensive schemes that he has, I just wish we saw more action being ran for certain players, right? You want to see Mitchell Robinson get involved more, right? More pick and roll action for this guy. Even last year, I felt like we involved him more, despite Peyton still being our point guard at the time. Like he needs more looks, man. I mean, giving him 5 to 7 shots a night is pathetic. It's bullshit, man. And that needs to be talked about more. I feel like we're not talking about this more. Mitchell Robinson needs more attempts. He needs more looks at the rim. We're really good in pick and roll with him when we go RJ and Mitch, but we don't do that enough. They don't play together enough they play together a lot, but they don't run enough pick and roll with those two. They're really good in pick and roll. They've got great chemistry. Their two-man game is perfect, but we don't run enough out there. He needs more action, man. Mitch Robinson needs more P&R action. Simple. Throw him more lobs. You get him five shot attempts tonight is pathetic. He was 3 for 4 tonight. Why isn't he getting more looks? He's a really good finisher. Yeah, he's got some issues with his strength. He's got to put some pounds on, but he's still, he finished with the highest field goal percentage in league history last year. Just a tad under 70 this year percent. He can throw down the lob. He's a really good rim runner. 5 shots a night. If we can double that, give him 10 shots a night, I guarantee he'll at least score you 15 points on average. That's without an offensive arsenal. Play him with RJ more. Or run him some more action with RJ. Play him with Emmanuel quickly more. But Tibbs doesn't do that. I don't know what it is. Are we worried about Obi Toppin yet? He looks really out of sync. Not in rhythm. No rhythm to what he's doing. We'll see occasional flashes where, he'll look good and pick and pop, fading out to the 3, or he'll, have those baseline cuts, or those cuts from the short corner and throw one down. I would like to see more, though. He's got to, again, it comes down to him getting more minutes. He can't be getting 10 minutes a night off the bench. That's not the way to develop a player. So I'm not worried about him. I'm just worried about the way we're developing him. What else do I have here? I'm trying to see. I'm all over the place in my notes here. Kind of just did it last minute tonight. But, yeah, it's just the way the offense is ran is so weird, so bizarre to me. And the rotations are very clunky, very awkward. It's the same fixed rotations every game. It's like the same couple of lineups we see, where there's either no shooting whatsoever, or there's just all dribblers, shot creators who don't move the ball enough. Why can't we see more IQ, Burks, RJ, Randall, Mitch? We don't see that enough. I guarantee if we started those 5, it would be so much better to watch this team play. And I'm not just talking results. I'm just saying, just excitement, youth, development. You got 5 young guys right there. Or 4. And then a really good floor spacer in Alec Burks. Promising point guard. And improving RJ Barrett on the wing. And then Randall and Robinson in the front court doing their thing. It's fun. Or IQ with RJ and Obi more. Or with Knox. We need lineups with the youth more often. I was looking on Basketball Reference and, lineups with IQ and RJ and Mitch. I don't even think I saw that in the top 20. I in terms of the 3-man rotations, I don't think I saw that. We need to see more IQ with the young kids. Peyton's got to go. I'm sorry, he's pathetic, and he was pathetic again tonight in Utah. Some more empty offense, and again, defensively continues to show why that narrative is overrated. Had some issues, had some trouble reading Utah's offense a couple of times. Basic sets he couldn't read. Why did RJ Barrett just get 11 shot attempts tonight when he was shooting really well? Got 40 minutes and he had 11 shot attempts. You know? And not only is his usage rate not up a fair amount this year, but it's down a tad. It's not up a lot, which I think it should, I was hoping it would have at least been up, 3 to 5%. It's down. I think from 23.4 to 22 point something. Don't quote me on that. But it is down. Despite the field goal percentage being above 42% now, that's up from last year. The free throw percentage is drastically up. The 3-point percentage looks like it's improving after that rough stretch. He's finally getting it going there, knock on wood. But he's, another night where he's not featured as much as he should have been and in the ways he should be. Right? Again, the spot up RJ's got to end. I would rather go point RJ before I go spot up RJ, because at least point RJ is playing him to his strengths on the ball. When we're spotting him up outside the arc for wing threes and elbow 3-pointers, that's his biggest weakness. Limit him to 2 threes a night, 3 threes a night, like he's been of late. And he's effective there, but also give him ball time. Enough of Payton over dribbling and just causing stagnance on the offensive end. And more RJ Barrett doing that dribbling and doing his bulldozing thing. Sure, you can get him in these, motion cuts off the ball and running off screens, but we need some more actions for RJ Barrett, for Mitchell Robinson, for the young kids, and it's not enough. It's a very stagnant freestyle, I don't want to say it, but David Fizdale-esque offense at times, where it's, go with the flow. Although Fizdale at times tried to way overcomplicate things, there were also times where Fizdale was just freestyling it. And I feel like with Tibbs, sometimes we're doing that. A lot of the times. So I'm not going to knock this guy totally out. I feel like this whole episode I've been ripping him, and I really think he's done a well job this year. He's got the Knicks competing, and for the most part, again, he's got the young kids at least playing, right? Mitchell Robinson's starting every night. RJ's amongst the leaders in minutes. He's, before the recent stretch, Knox has seemed to found a niche. IQ is playing really well, but there are things I still want to see him do. Right, there are a few things I still would like Tom Thibodeau to get out of certain guys. If I were to grade him, I don't think I would go below a B. I don't think I would go above in the A range, but I don't think I would go in the C range either. I would stick somewhere in the B range. Yeah. Better than recent coaches. Still some things I would like to see. And it starts with the point guard, man. It starts with Elfrid Payton. So, that's my 2 cents. All right, let's get to the, we might as well get to the NYK question of the day, and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right. All right, so let's see. Last time in episode 206, our NYK question of the day, brought to you by Anchor, the best way to make a podcast. You can download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to begin if you want to start a podcast. Our question of the day, our NYK question of the day for last time out in episode 206 was, in the 1993-94 season, which Knick became an all-star for the first and only time in his career? The hint was he played 10 seasons with the Knicks. The answer to that question? Charles Oakley. Yes, Charles Oakley. Our pal Charles Oakley. Oak. All right, that was the answer to 206. Our NYY NYK question of the day for 207 for tonight's episode, for this episode of the podcast of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Our question for this episode. On Sunday, this past Sunday, against Portland, Emmanuel Quigley went off for 31 points on 5 3-pointers. So outside of Quigley, how many other Knick rookies have scored at least 30 points in a game with at least 5 threes? All right, so I'll say that one more time in case you got lost there. On Sunday night, against the Blazers, Emmanuel Quigley went off for 31 points, hitting 5 3-pointers. Outside of Quigley, so before he did that, how many other Knick rookies scored at least 30 points in a game with at least 5 threes hit? All right, so that's the question for episode 207. That is our NYY NYK question of the day. You can answer that question by hitting me up on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter in my DMs, or commenting once I publish this podcast. Once I put the promo up, comment there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning into the podcast once again. This is your host, RJ Carbone. Yes, coming at you with episode 207 of BD4. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Once again, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast right now. Just go to my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. That'll take you to my site. There should be a tab called Outlets. Click on Outlets. That will take you to a page that displays all my information, the different platforms and feeds for the podcast, where to reach me on social media, and my blog will be on that page as well. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. That's all I've got. I will see you maybe this weekend if we do, some Yankees talk. I'm busy. I have to go on a couple of other shows some people have asked me to be on, but I'm going to try to make room. I'll see what I can do. Sometime in the next 2 weeks, planning on having 2 of my best buddies, 2 of my cousins on the show. We're going to talk some UFC, maybe some NFL, some NBA and MLB, maybe. So look forward to that. Maybe around the Super Bowl. Try to get them on the show, but we're pretty booked right now. We've got a lot of work to do, but yeah, so as for this weekend, maybe some Yankees. Obviously, the Knicks will continue doing what we've been doing. Every 2 games, we publish episodes, barring emergency, but that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, one last time, I am your host, RJ Carbone, and this is episode 207 of the podcast. I'll see you next time of BD4. I will see you next time. Ciao.
This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.